You're listening to the Big Cast, your source for the latest in financial technology. Brought to you weekly by the Best Innovation Group, with your hosts, John Best and Glenn Sarvati.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special Thanksgiving edition of the Big Cast. My name's John Best, and I am the CEO of Best Innovation Group. We like to do cool things for credit unions, and with me, as is the tradition, I believe at this point it's a tradition, I have three very special guests with me, and I will let them introduce themselves. I'll start off with the one and only Glenn Sarvati. Go ahead, Glenn.
Oh, I think you just introduced me. Glenn Sarvati, 154 Advisors, and a regular here on the Big Cast, and I am looking forward to doing our annual roundtable around the turkey with the things we're thankful for. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Glenn. Hey, John. So happy to be here. Ann Legg, founder of Thrive. We are a data education and consultancy, and it has been so much fun to be thinking about how long we've been doing this, and also to be thinking about how thankful we are to be doing this for as long as we have.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I would echo that. Hi, everyone. John Clays, president of Nimbus QSO. And I think, team, is this our fifth or sixth one that we've done?
I was trying to figure that out myself. I think it's at least six.
Yeah.
Let's just say six.
I think
I
think in the future they will dig these up in archaeological digs, and they will examine them, try to figure out what we were all about. That's what I think.
It'd be kind of fun to go back and see what kind of things we were thankful for back in whatever it was, 2016.
Crazy. The world has changed dramatically.
All right. Well, it is the tradition to kind of just get the ball rolling about the things we're thankful for. And we generally will go around the horn. And so let's start off with John Janklius. And John, you always have such thoughtful responses for this. So, unlike Glenn, who is so materialistic and just is thankful for Target or whatever he is.
You set the bar, so I better show up here with something decent.
Yeah, looking for something philosophical and loving, and something that's just really going to be something that is special to everyone. I expect to cry, so go ahead.
All right. Well, something that didn't cause us to cry, but actually made us stand up and cheer, I believe, is that we saw consolidation of some of the big system partners at a massive level, right? We had CUNA and NAFQ coming together, and we had Co-op and PSCU. And I just applauded the leadership in both of those groups for bringing that together and getting the scale and getting the thought leadership kind of consolidated in a place where we can really tackle the issues that are coming at us. I was like, bravo, rather than being kind of bifurcated at that high level, to have that kind of coming together. There'll be issues with that for sure, right? Because maybe you lose a stakeholder's voice in it that might be different. But on the upside, I think it's a really good thing for the industry, and it's kind of like leading the way.
In a way, go ahead,
Go
John.
ahead, Ian.
I was going to say, in a way, it felt like to me that we were seeing some of our besties becoming more than friends. And I really enjoy that, because I feel like, wow, we're making this whole new family, and we're merging in a whole bunch of new quality and capability and talent. And I feel like, to your point, Jenkins, it's only going to get better. And I too am also very excited about that.
All right.
John, were you going to say something else on that?
I was just going to ask John and maybe Ann as well, since she commented on it. So this marriage of both of these organizations, CUNA, NAFQ, PSU, Co-op, do you think that's a result, though, of our shrinking industry with regard to, and it's fascinating to me because we're shrinking with regard to the number of credit unions, but the number of people that use the services seems to stay the same. And the bifurcation certainly creates dysfunction at times, I think, with in a world that more ever connected. But I just wanted to get your take on, what do you think that what's the future trend of that? Is there any other organizations that you would see combining?
That's a really, really good point, John. Of course. What's interesting is, yes, as an industry, our entire industry is in a state of consolidation. That's nothing new, but it is fascinating because I hadn't really thought about what are other opportunities out there. when we look outside of credit unions and we look at just technology and fintech, you see a ton of change and modification. And I mean, heck, here's a good one. Amazon's gonna be able to sell Hyundais. I mean, we're just changing as we go on. So I kind of feel like this was a change moment, maybe, not necessarily reflective or causationally related to consolidation, but it's all part of change, I guess is how I think about it.
I'm trying to recall if this
Amazon,
was. Go ahead, John.
Amazon selling Hyundais. You remember when Sears used to sell houses?
Yes,
That's right.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
I
You
can't
could just
recall.
buy a house. They send you the whole kit and the screwdriver. Get it
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
I
The
can't recall.
OG IKEA.
I can't recall if this is a 2023 or 22 event, but kind of on one level down from things like NAFQ and CUNA coming together, we've had consolidation of the state leagues, which to me is even more important and even more telling with regard to the number of credit unions. It's amazing to me that some of the states with the fewest credit unions still have standalone leagues, but Cornerstone took on additional ones. The West Coast has, and I think those may have all been settled by 2022. But again, it's part of that same philosophy. And I think, as you say, it makes a lot of sense. I didn't realize NAFQ had been around for 50 years. And apparently, when I read, I think it was actually on Chip Filson's blog that I learned about this. It really kind of started because of specific, as you mentioned, voices of advocacy for federally insured credit unions. And the meaningful difference between those two probably is not as great now as it was in the 70s. So again, why have two different groups? There may be cases where you run into a little bit of a challenge there, that they're not all necessarily on the exact same page of the hymnal. But I think overall, it's certainly a good idea.
Yeah,
Well, I'm going to break the news here, but the NCUA and the SEC are merging, and it's all going to be one thing. Everybody's going to be governed under and the CFPB. It's just going to be called Financial Gotcha. That's the name of it. So you can say you heard it here first.
There'll be a self-service window, John, on doors and findings. You can just say, I'm guilty. I tried something, and don't need to send it later. You promise
Don't
to
need
do
to send anybody out. I promise to do better. I accept my door. Thank you very much. And there's the door. Well, let's keep going around. Let's go on to Ann. Ann, what are you thankful for?
You know what? I'm absolutely thankful for how much AI, specifically, and we think about it from, all that is like ChatGPT and all of the pieces and how it's just rapid fire happened in this year. Because when we have AI and data analytics, credit unions are able to offer more personalized financial services than ever before and get access to the member data and start making chatbots that actually sound like humans and do amazing things. And they can really, 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 we've been able to see this year, see how credit unions can embrace this and use, basically kind of use their existing talent to start solving the talent war, but also delivering and escalating up the member experience. And I could just wax and wane on that for the next 40 minutes, which I won't, but that part has been so exciting to see credit unions embrace, figure out where they're going, start to see the efficiencies and start seeing the members to actually see this intersection of AI, data analytics, and then all circling back into a member experience.
So you're excited about credit unions being able to, let go most of their employees and just get to one robot that takes care of everything.
So
and that goes with the
that is not
financial.
What I said. That is so not what I said, John.
I feel like that's what she said.
Let's be clear about this.
Glenn, can you rewind the tape, Glenn?
It's funny that this is coming up because I just got in this conversation with a friend of mine. There was a headline about UPS opening up a new robotics-based warehouse. And the headline came out that robots were going to outnumber the people there 15-1. And he was a manager at UPS that was rather frustrated by that characterization. He said, anybody can look at our data. It's publicly available. We have consistently added heads every year for decades. It may slow the growth of headcount, but it ain't getting rid of it.
So here's the challenge that credit unions have. They've been on the struggle with the war on talent for the last 2 years. And it has been harder than anything for them to keep the people, retain the people, try to keep the pricing. And if you can have people now, your existing people can now do more by having chatbots who, by the way, wouldn't it be great if you could say to your people, you're going to be 98% effective on the information you give out and the satisfaction? As humans, we can't be 98%, but in this front low, we can do this. Say, okay, in the chatbot reference, all right, here you go. And then now it frees up the humans to do other cool, more amazing things that we don't have to hire more. So it can really help solve a variety of different problems of using our talent more efficiently and effectively. I think, again, always going back to the member, it helps with the member experience. So I want to make sure I anchor on that. It's, look, until us humans can get to 98%, which we never are, this is kind of a cool opportunity.
So anybody that doesn't hit 98%, we have to fire in place of the agents. No, I think you're absolutely right. I joke around because unfortunately that is a real sentiment among some employees. And,
Oh yeah.
Right.
The concern is real for them, but I think it's their Iron Man suit. I think that, that's what it's going to become. So very exciting.
You know what, John, one thing on that, John, the one thing to think about is, and I've heard this from several credit union leaders where they're saying, look, we can still grow and meet those numbers that we want with the same staff. You all, staff, will be incented if we do this, but you all get to have an opportunity to change what you do. And if this isn't what you want, then I understand that this maybe not be the place. But I love that I'm seeing some credit union leaders actually making that stand and saying, we can still do this, but I'm asking for everybody to step in and make some changes.
And does this create an opportunity for better paying jobs too, because of what you are able to do, enabled by technology, that you may be able to be a more contributing, more powerful, human being? So yeah, maybe there's an opportunity to earn more.
And Jankley's, this is an amazing point. Think about it. You can now become more of an employer of choice, because if you're in an area where you can say, come in this role and you can start doing fractional AI, or you can be doing a bunch of different things, you literally give credit unions to be the opportunity of being, employer of choice, which is something that may be a huge opportunity for our credit unions.
Well, I, for one, welcome our AI overlords, and I want them to hear that and to know that I am on their side. All right, let's keep on going. Glenn.
Yeah, I'll just add one more thing to that last conversation. I've heard a few credit union executives on stage say that they really believe that AI can be a great leveler of the playing field. And I definitely agree with that. I may not be quite as gung-ho as Ann is. I have some concerns, but I love that it's been progressing so quickly and the conversation is being had, because I think there's guardrails and things like that we have to develop. And the best way for that to happen is to have everybody thinking about it at the same time, so it doesn't just kind of happen accidentally. I'm getting a thumbs up from Ann, so I think she's in agreement on that one.
Yeah.
I had a warm, fuzzy one, and I had a controversial one, and we've been fairly warm and fuzzy, so I'm going to go controversial. I am thankful for the Federal Reserve and for regulators in general. And yeah, I think Ann just fell off of her seat. And with obvious caveats to that. I mean, I think that there's clearly issues. I think the Federal Reserve's approach to this new debit cap is, misguided. I think there's a definite problem there. I think the CFPB's approach to the data, the data rights and privacy and portability, it's well-intentioned, I believe, but I think is really in need of a lot of work before it's really ready for prime time. And I'm afraid about that one getting rushed. So obviously there's always things you can pick holes at on that. But having said that, we seem to be now finally talking where a soft landing is almost the assumption of where the economy is going to be. And everybody was just laughing at the idea that there was going to be a soft landing, 9-10 months ago. So, for all the grief the Fed got in terms of their interest rate policy, and it created some pretty interesting challenges, but I think a lot of that was almost inevitable. It seems to have had the intended effect and without causing undue pain. So I really like that one. And you also look at folks like the FDIC and the way things were managed around the liquidity crisis. When you think about Silicon Valley Bank and it could have been a whole lot worse. And we've had conversations. The amazing thing to me is that Silicon Valley Bank is still out there as a brand, even after what happened. They have a new owner, but they're still out there. So kudos. Somebody actually, it gets lots of, it's almost like an umpire. You get all kinds of attention and everybody screams at you when it gets messed up. But when things finally kind of go right, people kind of forget about it. So I want to give them a little kudo there.
And Glenn,
go ahead, John.
You're seeing the green shoots, right? We see housing starts are up 2 months in a row now. There's a lot of good signs that are happening. Interest rates seem like they're starting to kind of back down a little bit. So our cost of funds is going to come down. So there's Yeah, there's some good things there.
I don't think anybody expects them to go to where they were, but I think we've seen the high. We've seen the high.
So I'd like to
Glenn
add
is-
into that. If I may say that I think what I'm hearing is I have a whole appreciation for Milton Friedman and less of an appreciation for Keynes. So I think we fully step in with you on our economist buddies, and I'd say you're right. I mean, Milton Friedman laid us up and said, "Guys, don't do this again," and we didn't. And to your point, it has served us well. So yeah, okay, I can jump on Team Friedman with you and be
It's rare.
appreciative
It's
for that.
rare that we
right.
learn from the lessons of the past, and I haven't totally thrown in the towel on Keynes either. But having said that, I definitely I think yeah, good. We got some meeting in the mind.
So that actually just leads right into mine. I'm a little different. I'm not a fan of Sam Bankman-Friedman. I think that we should have, but I am thankful that we are starting to weed out some of these dudes. I think that group, the shakedown in that industry is going to leave the real opportunity in place. I don't think, what is it? What's the old saying? The stories of my demise or
Greatly exaggerated, yes.
Yeah, greatly exaggerated. I think that's true of the crypto sector, but I do think that getting rid of people like Sam Friedman and him and the world seeing someone like that get their get the consequences is going to help in that space, because I still think that this idea of smart money, particularly in a world where AI is as strong as it is going to be important. But I don't know why Anne's and you and Anne are so excited about him, but I just think that it's good that he was arrested and he gets to write letters in his cell to his girlfriend who was running the other company that was creating this huge problem. And I feel for all of those that lost a lot, unlike you guys who obviously don't care about any of them. I feel for those that lost their money. So but and obviously John Jankulius didn't say anything. He's with me. I could tell that's in my screen. We're on one side, you guys are on the other. So
I'm hearing that John feels bad for Tom Brady, is what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah, well, Tom did what he could. He was trying to help a friend.
Tommy will be just fine.
I don't know if it'll ever be the same.
John, it reminds me of a saying: "Hard times will make a monkey eat red pepper." Have you ever heard that one?
No.
I have heard if you put 1,000 monkeys and 1,000 typewriters in a room, but
I am super grateful for the hard times that we kind of went through. I'm glad it seems like they're abating, but think about what it did for fintechs, right? The kind of the shake up and the discipline of like, hey, you know what? It's not just the top line growth, it's the bottom line. And to do that, everybody had to make a whole bunch of set of decisions, and we're beginning to see them play out. And I think that's a good kind of, weeding out of the market who's the real players, who can run a real business. And I think that's good for the ecosystem. So I think that red pepper was okay. I'm
going to head down to the
I think you're right,
and get some red peppers.
Or maybe you have a little bit of red pepper for your head cold. That might make you feel better. I love where you went with innovation and how that is helping the industry, because you're right. Few of us were just at Venture Tech, and some of the technology that we're seeing out in the landscape is phenomenal and will be so beneficial to a variety of different needs and niches and future states of credit unions. And yeah, I'm exceptionally thankful for that.
All right. Well, that was mine. I'm thankful for that. Let's go back around. This time we're going to go in my screen counterclockwise. So Glenn.
So I think this kind of ties to the last couple of things we've been talking about. I am thankful for the entrepreneurial spirit. And, John Jankulius and Ann Legg and I were both out at Venture Tech, a couple of weeks ago, and love the ideas we saw there. But, I think, again, kind of tied back to the demise being greatly exaggerated too. There's been all this talk about fintech funding drying up. And that may be true on the really, really huge deals like the Stripes and things like that. But when you're talking about, I don't want to say $5 million is a small amount, but there's a lot of money out there. Circle Fund is raising another hundreds of millions of dollars. You've got my friends at TTV Capital raised one recently at about 250 million. There is a lot of money still out there looking for homes with good fintech companies. So, I mean, if you are at the early stages of a company And I think the other good thing about it, and the kind of the shakeout that John, you were talking about in crypto too, we may have lost our way a bit. And John Jankley, as you mentioned, the whole idea of focusing on the top line rather than the bottom line. But the whole notion, Bev Anderson, who's the CEO of BQ, made this comment on stage at Money 2020 that there were all kinds of great mission-driven opportunities to do good in financial wellness and inclusion in fintech, and there were still a lot of folks doing it. But when the valuations went through the roof, some people started looking a little more at the money. And the folks who are still involved clearly are doing it because of a passion, whether it's for financial wellness, for just the sake of innovation, because of an entrepreneurial spirit. It's not just dollar signs in their eyes. And they're continuing to do it. And I think that's a really encouraging thing. And to your point, Anne, I think it's going to really pay benefits down the road.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like this has been an interesting year, specifically in seeing the I love how you said the financial inclusion, right? In the fact that there are new ideas that there are fintechs and startups that are trying to carve out good, and that fits so beautifully with the credit union mission. And to see those two entities kind of come together and then in a way innovate additionally is absolutely a moment of gratitude and absolute excitement.
And whether it's purely mission or just really tying nicely to the overall kind of elongating the credit union mission, but the fact that we saw all these solutions, there was one very specifically I remember that was trying to speak women's language to try to get more women to invest earlier in their careers. I thought that was great. But more broadly, the idea of bringing more Gen Z and younger members into the fold too, for a variety of different reasons, of reaching them at their moment of truth where credit unions can really make a difference for them. So the idea that these tools are being developed specifically with, if not literally credit unions in mind, the credit union mission in mind, even if people don't realize that it's kind of one and the same.
So you're
Absolutely.
saying that you're excited that someone's putting some effort to actually learn the language of women and to try to learn to talk to them. That just seems very, very, I don't know, Glenn. I worry
listen
about that.
Listen to our next episode. I spoke to the woman responsible for that company, and it's fascinating too, because it's not one of the things that was fascinating to me about that solution is it sounded like it was kind of a women's club, but the bottom line is the point was they're trying to tailor their message to appeal to women, and 10% of their members are men. It's not exclusive, and for whatever reason, that message resonates with a portion of men as well.
I think you're right.
And they found a remarkable overlap of their membership with credit union members.
Yeah. Glenn, as I was sitting there at Venture Tech, I thought this is awesome that the use cases that we're solving for are very specific. Like for women, there was one there for immigrants. There was one there for people who are seniors. I think it's called Silver, right?
Yes.
And these are awesome solutions. But how do you string that together or manage a portfolio of brands? To me, that almost feels like a new skill set, that you have these many brands that you're managing, in order to do all these jobs that your members need. And, the solutions are awesome, but how do you pull that all together in some kind of cohesive marketplace? I think it's like,
I think that's a really good point. And I think it kind of comes back to the whole notion of open banking too, that you're looking elsewhere for solutions. But, I'm not saying AI solves that problem. It's another one of those examples, though, that if AI kind of clears the plate of some of the mundane tasks, that can help you free up some bandwidth to do that kind of portfolio management.
I'd like to step in there and think a little bit around kind of the ecosystem and the landscape. Many times we've been thinking that a credit union has to do one or the other, right? They build, they buy, but they don't think about it as this beautiful tapestry or quilt, if you will, that this is an ecosystem that they have a ton. Let's just take with the quilt reference, each quilt is made up of a different square, and they've got a lot of different squares that they need to fill in. And when they look at that, they go, wow, this fits this square perfectly well. And I think that's kind of a way of thinking about, managing the portfolio as an enterprise level, as opposed to maybe a technology niche.
Yeah.
No, with inclusion, one of the things I thought was really cool about our these new AI systems is really breaking down some of the communication barriers, which has been a talent barrier in terms of getting folks to talk, I was talking to Kevin Johnson over at Suncoast, the CEO of Suncoast, and I didn't realize it, but his number two language is Creole. Um,
Wow.
that's interesting that that has become a thing. And so, finding people that speak that is, I guess, more difficult than it would seem, but having something that can interpret that, not only interpret it, but interpret it in a meaningful way is a big game changer. So, all right, well, let's move on to Anne.
Well, gosh, this just fits beautifully. Again, it's around increased financial inclusion. So I guess I'm kind of dovetailing one moment off of what you guys are talking about. And it's, if we think about financial inclusion, let's also think around, we talked about a couple different areas, generational, we talked about gender, but let's also talk about underserved and unbanked. We have a huge opportunity now to do, peer-to-peer, just getting in there and being credit unions kind of in the OG format, in the sense of we're here to help everybody improve their financial condition. And I think with new technology that we're seeing out there with the use of AI, I think we're having a much increased opportunity to reach financial inclusion and make that happen, as opposed to kind of a nice to have.
Agreed. I think that they're going to become table stakes. I would
Right.
agree.
Right. Cool.
Awesome. All right, let's go to John.
Oh boy. So we were just talking about AI, and before that we talked about blockchain and other year-end discussions that we've had here. John, I want to call out 10 years of best innovation helping to lead those conversations. I mean, if
Oh,
you're
well, thank you.
and you need to get your head around whatever the new topic is, your forums that you create, you have that weekly forum where people can really check in real quick, come up to speed from a trusted source on here's the implications, here's how you might want to think about it, and create some options for people for learning. So I just want to I'm grateful for that, John. That's good on you and Glenn. And I mean, that's 10 years of awesome work for the industry.
Well, thank you
Cheers, cheers.
so much. Yeah, I feel very, very humbled to have worked with you and others. You were an early client of Best Innovation Group, and we're thankful for that. Every day I just look up and go, wow, what a cool job I have. I get to work with these incredible people, and every day is something new. And I always get to learn in an industry that I absolutely adore. So thank you for calling that out. So yeah, 10 years of big. I looked up and thought, wow, it's been 10 years. So yeah, it's just an amazing accomplishment, and I would be nowhere near that, or we would be nowhere near that as a company without folks like you and Anne and Glenn and then my team. These guys that stick it out with all of us and just make it happen every day. It's just an incredible group.
Hey, John, take us back 10 years ago. What was the impetus to start it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Started it all.
Well, I'd spent about 12 years developing home banking, and on the other side of the wall trying to build things and really try to stay ahead of innovation. And I realized very quickly that there was another level that credit unions need to have to really get some help. And what that was is that you could give someone a Cadillac, or you could give them a tool, but if you don't give them instructions, or if you don't understand exactly how to use it, it doesn't necessarily translate into the successes. And that was a continuing issue for a lot of folks who would invest a lot of money in things. And it was funny because some of it was based around meeting you before I'd started the company, and reading some of your books, and just understanding that culture, the people, the leadership all play such a big role in that, and you just cannot product your way out of it. And I always thought, well, if I just write this really, really great product and make it, really, really good turnkey, that this will help everyone. And it certainly does, but there's just a lot more to it. And I wanted to commit ourselves, if we truly were committing ourselves as an organization to raise the level of the credit union industry, then we would have to do it in a much different way. And that was the impetus for starting big.
Well, we are so glad
Right.
you did. We are so glad you did.
Well, all of you did the same thing. John, when I met John, he was the CEO of Disney, credit union, not the actual Disney, but well, maybe, I don't know. He could have done both for all I know. So very, very cool. Well,
Let me just layer onto that just a little bit. I want to mention too. I mean, for one thing, it's it's just a milepost. We're going to continue forward, but it's really interesting that right at the 10-year anniversary is when all this AI stuff popped. Somebody said to me this year, it may have been you, John Jankless, I can't remember for sure. Somebody made the point, John, you just absolutely dove in headlong on this. And I mean, the sessions we did around AI and Chat GPT, were so engaging at the town hall. And somebody just said, this is when John is absolutely at the top of his game, when he's got something brand new like this to really jump into and get to the bottom of and help people understand what it can do for the broader industry and give a perspective. So what a great gift for the 10th anniversary for that type of thing to really pop.
You're right. And it actually will lead to my my final thanks, which is I'll say it like this. I've been doing this my whole life since I was a kid. My father was a NASA engineer. I started coding when I was 12 years old, maybe a little earlier than that. And I have never, ever seen anything this prolific, B, move this fast, and I would say C, have such potential to change, to level the playing field for our industry. There is no other sense, and I go back to fire, and you may have heard me speak on this. Well, you laugh, but with fire, we actually outsourced a bit of our digestion, which allowed us as a species to evolve far further than our other competitors. It put us at the top of the food chain. And you think about, like, for example, this, I'll go off on a little bit of a diatribe. Ask any millennial about one of their friends' phone numbers. They got no clue.
That's an interesting point. Wow.
You put them in jail, you better give them their phone, because they're not going to be able to call their parents without their phone, right? And I'm not saying that's happened. I'm just saying that's a thing. But and if you look, that's an outsourcing of that, right? Where people have gotten used to it. I got into a taxi here in New York to drive over to the financial district. I don't know about you, but every taxi or Uber I'm in New York or one of these cities, the driver is always on a conversation. I don't know who in their own language, but they're on a conversation continuously. Why? Because they don't have to worry about navigation anymore. They're just looking at a little screen that's telling them where to turn. It's not like it was. And so this outsourcing of these various functions are very valuable because they allow us to do other things. And I think that this is an ultimate game changer. And you just, like, what we're seeing right now is so the tip of the iceberg. 2024, 2025 are going to be off the chain. I can't even, what I'm seeing and the discussions I'm having with some of these companies and what I'm even able to do myself, I've just never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
So it's
preview of coming attractions. Then if you're a leader and there's these amazing sciences and tools they're developing, you may not own all of these sciences inside the walls of your credit union. You rely on partnerships to do it. And so this is going to become a really dynamic ecosystem. And the leadership skill is going to be, can you out-partner your competition in managing the ecosystem? Because it's outside the organization now. So can you flex your culture almost outside the walls and do it better than your competition?
I agree. I also think that for the first time, or not the first time, but we continue the paradigm of the consumer technology, also making the way for the corporate technology. And in this case, I literally think we're 6 months away from all of us having an AI assistant that will do things that in your wildest dreams you never thought it could do. And it's just it's one of those things where I just have this mindset, like everything anybody sends to me, I'm like, my first thought is, well, can the AI thing I have do that? And I start there, and I'm continuously surprised at what it's able to do. I had a friend send me a picture of his lawnmower. He was joking. I said, what are you doing today? He said, I'm working on this. And he just sent me like a deep picture of and John, you would know this, a carburetor just taken apart. Actually, it was his Jeep is what it was. And so I threw it. I said, well, what you try to do? He said, I'll try to put it back together, but I'm struggling some of the parts, blah, blah, blah. So I just fed that picture in the AI and I sent him back the results. And he was like, what the heck did you do? And I said, I just
Mhm.
put it in AI, it told me where to put it.
Mhm.
But it never
Mhm.
occurred to him. And as that becomes the first thought for a lot of folks, it's gonna take everything and make it go faster, and not just for the corporations, but for people as well. And those expectations and those table stakes are all going, to rise with that. And I think what we're headed to is incredible game changers that just no one's ever seen before.
Well, that's good because I'm hoping to drop my handicap and golf down a few members. So
Oh no, no, I don't think
you'll come online to help me.
you have to go
No,
watch
you're
that Rick and Morty
yeah.
episode about the Meeseeks that tried to get rid of Jerry's handicap. That's pretty funny.
But you're absolutely spot on, John. We're on this, and we have been on this trajectory for increased innovation, increased partnerships, really transformation of the industry. And that's what we have been on. And now we're seeing an acceleration. And I too am just absolutely excited to see where it's going to go, and absolutely thankful that I get to see that it's happening and see the changes. So yeah,
Well,
beautifully said.
and it's an exciting time to be someone like you or John or or even Glenn, really. I
Even
mean,
me, what the heck?
even Glenn, John, the idea of I'm sure you have people working on integrating this technology into Nimbus, and there is
Yep.
no better, useful solution than to be able to do this sort of training and move these knowledge bases. And
Yep.
we're about to see we're entering a new age. And it's funny that you mentioned the robot thing. So there's a great book, it's called Blood in the Machine. And
Mm,
I love the title of it. It basically says the title of it says it all. What its little tagline is. It basically says, people are worried about losing their jobs and all of this stuff. And it sounds like 2023, doesn't it? But actually it was based on I don't know if you know this, but the term Luddite comes from a group of
hmm
people who opposed the building of the machinations around looms and textures in London at the time, and actually would go and burn down whole factories because people were just being put out of jobs, right? And so I think we've learned
hmm
our lessons from that. I dearly hope so, and we're not going to see that happen with this. I think that at least in our industry, there'll be a thoughtful transition in the way that you guys described, where people are going to say, hey, here's how I grow the organization. But I'm not getting rid of people. What I'm going to do is take those people, and instead of hiring more and continuing to throw more wood into the fire, more coal, I'm going to have more efficient coal, and I'll throw the same amount in, and go much faster and much further with the same resources and what I have. And I think that's the value proposition. And next year is going to be off the hook. Think about what GPT-4 does now,
Right.
and then think about what GPT-5 can do or
Right.
will do. What we went from GPT-3 barely able to pass the bar, barely able to do anything. Couldn't pass medical, to where GP4 not only passed the bar, but rocked it and passed the
hmm
medical. What's
hmm
GPT-5 going to do? I mean, we're on a track that is, I didn't think I'd see it in my
I,
lifetime.
John, I so agree with you. I'm reading a book, and I promise this is related. It's called The Last Century of the Horse. Most folks know I'm a horseman, and it goes
Yes.
through the history of that how work was done in partnership with the horse, and then when that technology was over and we moved to automobiles, how breathtakingly fast it happened. And I just apply that to what
hmm
we're learning here, like you're saying with Chat GPT. I think it's going to be breathtaking too. What's going to happen?
Well, and it's interesting because the horse is a great analogy, because horses were on the road, right? And at the same time as the automobile, and and so you think about like that transitive period, that moment where, because if you rode a bunch of horses, and now it could be today, I think there's some Amish nearby here, but or the Mennonites, but if you drove a car by these things, particularly these old Model Ts, it would scare the living crap out of these poor horses, and they would jump up and bad things would happen, and people would just curse them. Damn car, what are you doing? Dudes would drive by with those big goggles on and the leather hat, like Glenn still wears today. And but there was a transformational period. We're seeing the same thing with autonomous cars. I have a great picture of a cop who pulled over an autonomous car. I don't know who he gave the ticket to, but That was a thing. And so this technology, particularly the ability to, do what seems like, at least on the outside in, reasoning, is crazy. And that doesn't make you sentient, by the way. Consciousness, sentient, and reasoning are three different things. And so it's interesting. You should, I've just been, I can't stop reading about it. It keeps me up at night, and I am just blown away.
I noticed you put the link to the Blood in the Machine book in typical John Best fashion, the audiobook version as opposed to the first edition.
Well,
but we'll put that in the chat, in the show notes, rather, so people can write that down.
I'll leave this as my last little thanks thing. So for someone like me who has just extreme ADHD and something else called dysgraphia, ChatGPT, I've spent my whole life, just fighting through that, trying to succeed despite sort of these wandering issues that I have with my mind and everything else, and having this almost like a partner in ChatGPT to keep me on track. And I've heard other people, I'm part of these ADHD groups, online, and they're saying it's changing their lives. And I'm just so thankful that another generation isn't going to have to fight their way through these things, and we'll have an opportunity to succeed and have the tools that just never existed to help solve those problems. And so I'm super thankful. My grandkids will have that, and my kids.
That's a great addition.
Sounds like another level to your why, John. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It
really does.
It sounds like the perfect place to end.
I was going to say, we got several threads we've kind of left ourselves to pick up on. I mean, I felt like we were already getting into our prediction episode there for a bit. We start looking forward into 2024, which that'll be coming up, as well as our recap of the biggest stories of 2023, as well as the fact that the next CU town hall, which I believe is, John, Wednesday, November 29th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
we're going to do a little bit of that same conversation about like looking back at exactly where the world's gone, or from a fintech standpoint and the credit union standpoint over the last 10 years.
Oh, I haven't even touched on what I think is going to happen. I haven't scratched the surface. I have notes upon notes upon notes about that, because it's breathtaking. That's the only way I can describe it. Breathtaking.
Watch this space. More to come in the next couple of episodes. But cutownhall.com, November 29th. We'll post a link there as well. Free for everyone, but you do need to register in advance. So if you want to join us, please do.
And don't burn down any credit unions or factories because you think AI is taking over. It's not the same thing. So.
Everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, we forgot the most important give thanks, which is the people that listen to this podcast. And, you go back and listen. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes. We haven't even touched on quantum technology. People like Roger Grimes who gave us their time. And I'm just thankful for every single person that's ever breathed a breath of air into this podcast, and the people that listen to it, and especially our avid listeners, the Lou Grillies from PSU / I guess Co-op Now, and you guys and all the folks that just give us this platform and this opportunity to do this. So I'm just so thankful.
I can't wait to do it again. We'll get together again before the end of the year and kind of continue the conversation.
Well, by then I'll have AI John, so you'll be.
I don't have to worry about your calendar for once. That's great.
No, he's constantly available to you. Once I upload my consciousness to it, we'll be all set. So, all right, guys, thanks again.
All right,
just real quick before we go, John, Nimbus.com, right? NYBUS. That's where we can find you. And we can go to, is it thrive.net or thrive.com?
It's actually Ann Legg, LEGG at, what's that? Sorry, one more time. Ann at AnnLeggThrive.com. Sorry.
That's what it is. You do such a good job
with
in your marketing. I see Thrive so well, placed in there. Perfect. I always think, oh, she's just got that. And Glenn, you can find it any cannabis get together, or any kind of anywhere that fine cannabis is sold.
I've expanded to vape shops too. If you want to find me there, that's cool as well.
So. That is genius. Jewel, those kinds of things. You're always thinking, Glenn. You're always thinking. You can find us at big-fintech.com. Thanks, everybody.
Check back each week for the latest from the Big Cast. Or better yet, we hope you'll consider subscribing for free via Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Tweet us at Big Fintech. email info@big-fintech.com or visit us at big-fintech.com and click on the Media tab, where you can post a comment or check out our archive of hundreds of past episodes. See you next week.